All right. For a few things here.
Yeah, how's the real estate right now for Charlotte?
It's good, man. It's tricky because fitness is just not. There's some landlords just got their dicks rubbed in the dirt with like fitness, spa, wellness, anything during COVID.
Yeah.
So I bring by a new fitness tenant. They're like, I'm good on the fitness side, man. I had that guy shut down. I lost a bunch of TI money, whatever it is. So just some people are shy about it. Banks are shy about lending for it.
I think it's so odd.
It's tough, man.
I feel like it's a layup here in Charlotte.
Yeah, it is. It just landlords like, well, okay, I could take a gym, or I could wait for like some fucking frozen
another brewery.
Yeah, something else to pop in here, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, we're good to go. Cool. And just want to make sure, Baalaer. How we pronounce last name?
Yeah, Baalaer.
Yep. Perfect.
Yep, like college.
All right. Good deal, man.
Are we looking at this? Or are we?
Yeah, so I know. We're just gonna look at each other. As far as that goes, everything's recorded. Boom, boom, boom. We are good to go. Cool. All right, what is up, guys? It is Stu. It's another episode of the What the Fuck Gym Talk podcast. I'm with my man Ash Baalaer. We met in just I recognize good training, and I was working out at QC Fit, and I'm like, I know he doesn't work here, but I like what I see. I like what this guy's doing. And I'm like, what does he do? He's like, I rent some space here. I'm like, oh fuck. I mean, that takes me back to my goddamn roots,
right?
But I didn't even have the money to rent from a proper gym. I had to go into the apartment complex gyms and fucking
Many people do it.
And get in there and then get busted and then sell my idea to the leasing agent. So, do me a favor. Would you bring me up to speed? Kind of how you got started in the industry to the point of leasing your first standalone space.
Yeah. And it's funny, going back to like when we first met, I just seen this guy with his shirt off, sweating all over the place, working out twice a day in there. And I'm like, dude, this guy's a monster, right? Great form and everything. And I was like, yo, this dude's a beast. But yeah, back when I first went to college for nutrition, exercise science, thought I was going to be a physical therapist or something like that. Then I realized that's way too much school. I'm not going to school that long. I'm not going into debt for, $500,000. And that's when I made the pivot to personal training. Started at Lifetime Fitness up in Michigan. We have a huge platinum club up there, over 30 trainers there. So it's really hard to make a name for yourself as a trainer in that gym. You have a ton of competition. There's 30 people fighting for the same pool, right? It's like a bunch of sharks and like a little pool of fish.
You learn some good sales skills and shit like that. Like that's the school of thought I came in. Like I came in, I'm like, hi. It was an Urban Active out of the Nashville market. I'm like, so where's my clients? And they're like, they're on the floor, fuckface. You have to floor pull your first 10, and then we'll start setting you with appointments.
And I think that's honestly one of the harder ways to sell training.
Sure.
Rather than having a personal brand and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
bug that woman, have her take the AirPod out and be like,
oh, so awkward.
Can I show you a different way to do this, and hopefully you'll stroke a check to me for a couple $1,000s?
And that was our test. That was like the test for me to get the job. I had to get 5 female numbers, and I'm like, listen, I've gotten females numbers before, but not in a professional setting, right? So yeah, it was a hard start to personal training. Lifetime, they do a great job with their personal training. They really do. Like they're probably one of the leaders in personal training, and they have a great extensive program to get their personal trainers up to speed to be the best, etc. But the big thing when I went to Lifetime and I started training there, I learned a lot about the corporate side of personal training and like how everybody's a number, and like it's just like, hey, what's the numbers? What's this people? I don't care about their name. I don't care about what the
goal this quarter.
Did you hit the goal? And it was always goal. It was always money. And it was if we did $10,000 a month of business, we didn't have to clean the gym. That was the reward.
Nice.
And I'm like, yo, I'm a trainer. Why am I cleaning the gym? You know what I mean? And it was like, well, if you hit $10,000, you're good. You're a good boy, and you don't have to clean the gym anymore. And I was like,
were they giving you guys good commissions on these too?
And we were getting a 48% commission, and if you had more degrees and certifications, you got a percentage.
That. Okay.
Yeah. And they started you off at $75. When I first started, $75 seemed like a lot of money to me.
Per session.
Per session. It just seemed like a lot of money to me, and that's because I've never been born with money. I never had a lot of money, so I was like, somebody's gonna pay me $75 for this hour to train with me. There's no way. And guess what?
And they're not even paying. They're paying 150 or whatever, because 75 is just your cut,
No,
right?
75 was the actual session rate.
That was the actual session rate.
Yeah, and I still thought that was expensive.
So are you getting 45% then of that? Okay,
so I was making like 30 an hour or something like that after taxes, and they do draw system and everything like that. So and it was like okay money, but then you kind of look at it and you're like, I'm doing $20,000 of business and I'm not even getting half of it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I should be making a lot more money, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of those those things kind of, they kind of came together, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not getting what I'm worth here. I'm working my butt off. I'm taking care of my clients. I did everything the opposite. You're supposed to do 30-minute, evaluations. I did 1-hour evaluations. They're like, don't become friends with your clients. I tried really hard to establish a relationship with my clients, right? It was very black and white there, and I really think that a lot of things in nutrition, exercise, and just in life are in the gray. It's kind of like there's no fine line. There's no yes or no. It's kind of just like in the middle, right? So I was like, hey, there's a certain line where you don't want to go with your clients and get that relationship, but also at the same time not cross it. So Lifetime taught me a ton, and I was there for 2 years, and I was like, you know what? It's time for a move. It's time to go do my own thing. And I sat across my boss just like this, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna move to Charlotte. I'm gonna start my own
Why Charlotte?
business. I just seen a lot of opportunity in Charlotte.
Yeah.
I just think that
cold
nobody.
white shit like up in Michigan.
Yeah, I was about to say it was cold, so I wanted to move somewhere nicer, right? I had super bad seasonal depression in Michigan.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
brutal, right? But then also I just seen that Charlotte was such a young market, had tons of opportunity. There's money here. It almost seemed recession-proof because of the banks and stuff like that.
Did you come visit and get a feel
Came
for
visit,
it?
got a feel for it. Me and my wife were like, yeah, let's move, right? Well, girlfriend at the time, right? So we were like, yeah, let's move down here. Like, let's start our life down here. And I thought Charlotte was the perfect place to kind of get away from my old roots and just really throw myself into the fire, right? Came down to Charlotte, was making $500 a month, was broke. My wife was carrying the team as a nurse. She was crying because we weren't making enough money. And I'm like, babe, well, I'm gonna make it one day. I'm gonna make it one day. 3 months later, started to get some clients, started to get some tractions. That was at AMJB Fitness, which is my initials.
Yeah.
And then it turned into Mind Muscle Hustle, which was like our first branding, right?
Okay.
And then it turned into Intertia Fitness Co. Which
Is this a lease space that you had, or were you renting space out of a gym?
So I was renting space out of multiple gyms. So Stacks, Crown Town Athletic, went to Charlotte Athletic Club, and then the QC Fit was probably the last one I was at. So 4 or 5 different gyms. Guess what? All those gyms closed down.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So all these gyms are closing down. It was kind of screwing me over, and I'm like, I think I just have to build my own place, or else I'm gonna keep on depending on other people based off of my success.
Walk me through, for anyone listening, because there's trainers out there that are like, I'm going to a client's house, or they're coming to my garage, but I'd like to get situated in somewhere with air conditioning. What was your pitch when you walked into Stacks, when you walked into some of these gyms in Charlotte? What was that pitch? How did you approach that subject?
Yeah, and I get that people have to do the personal training out of garage and stuff like that. I personally hate it.
Yeah.
I think it just looks, I just don't love it.
Sure.
I think it looks kind of unprofessional, unless you have an awesome garage setup.
Unless you build, you could build it out.
You could build it out and deck it out, but
the lawnmower's right there.
That's what I'm saying. I just think there's a lot of weird boundary things that can be crossed too. And personal trainers already have issues with boundaries.
You're gonna do it. Take your garage and just be like, I'm parking on the street, and I'm gonna deck the garage out and make it.
Take it you got to think about it as a business.
Sure.
Right, and it's this is my business area. This garage is used for nothing else but business, right? But going into Stacks, I remember just going in there and just being like, hey, I love this place. The gym's dope. I see you have a lot of empty space here. It makes sense for you guys to make a little aside cash, and basically just have me train. I'll get out of the way. I'll make sure I'm not in front of your classes. If you need me to move, I'll move. Same thing I did at QC, and same thing I did at Crown Town. I'm like, I'll be in the corner. You won't even know. And I'm just going to bring my own clients in.
Yep.
Right? And they were cool with that. Usually you can get rent, honestly, for pretty cheap.
Were you getting some flat rates, or did someone want percentages?
Some wanted percentages, and I'm like, it doesn't make sense for a percentage for either way. And this is where you have to use your salesman, and be like, well, I'm not making much, so I'm only making $1,000. So if you want 10% of everything, you're making $100.
Yeah.
What if I just pay you $800, $600, right? And that flat rate, we make it uncomplicated, because then I have to report to you.
Yep.
Do you have to go that? Do you want that much work, or do you want $600?
Yeah. Do you want to have to check my QuickBooks to make sure I'm
weird.
because you start doing percentage work, and I tell gyms oh, we're gonna do percentage based. I'm like, you literally just signed up. Especially there's some gyms, the entire model is rental based. They just have an open gym and they let trainers come in and they want a percentage of it. I'm like, bro, the amount of checks and balances you've got to do to make sure people aren't like, hey, don't pay me cash so I don't have to pay it, report and pay it to that guy. Fucking just take a flat rate.
Yeah, and I did that at Lifetime. So
exactly.
Listen out there, I did it. Sorry, under the table. But you just take money off the table. It's tempting, right? And it's I've even ran into that here. We've been open for 8 months at this location, and it's already happened here. People it's tempting to be like, oh, I can just give you $100 cash.
Yeah.
You get to skip the percentage, right? And I think that you have to build a good system to be able to have that checks and balances, you know, figured out anyways. But yeah, just offered them cash, and I was like, hey, I'll pay you $600 to $800. That's usually what my rent was, which is a pretty good gig, because then you get to keep 100% of the profit, right? Yeah. But it's a big bet on you. $600 is a lot when you're only making $500. So you're the negative there.
Yeah.
But it's
when
a lot.
You're spaced out. Now, did you have that rent deal at multiple locations at once?
Nope, just one.
Okay.
So it was always one. So it was Stacks first, and then they closed down, and then it was Crown Town, and then they closed down. And I started Athletic Club. I worked there for 2 months, and they changed their commission model from 50-50 to 25-75, where the trainers are making 25% of the sale.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a second, I have to sell the person, train them, and I get 25% of it? You know, it was kind of crazy, right? So I'm like, I can't work for $15 an hour. So that's when I went to Stacks and, you know, started to do my own thing completely. What I noticed is that with that gym model, when you're just paying rent for somebody, it keeps it really black and white. You don't have to worry about the overhead of a gym space. Like if you just want to be a personal trainer and you can probably make 6 figures doing that.
You got to bob and weave with like, what kind of space do I get? And if there's a class going on, how do I have to share it? But like even at QC Fit, you would bring in your own shit.
And it was not bad. And I just brought my own stuff. And made it simple because it's like, you can't take this stuff away from me. I brought it.
You know what's interesting? Because where we're sitting now, you got your own retail spot. And we're going to get into the real estate of this stuff. But all those gyms you rented space from, they're not here, and it was not due to COVID, right? Like,
no, it wasn't.
Crown Town was a fucking. It was a disaster. Crown Town was a CrossFit gym that failed, and the members were rich. They bought it from the fucking original guy,
they did.
And they just paid so they had their own.
So they had their own space to work out.
I mean, the one dude's wife had her Peloton off to the side. Like, my kid goes to school on that side of town, so I would pop in there for a drop in every now and then. But even like Eric McCoy, good colleague of mine, he was a member across at South End forever, and then he opened up Stacks. Stacks was probably the most gorgeous facility. Alikio, but like, people didn't realize like members were using $1,600 barbells.
Yes, they were so
the place was dope. It had cryo freeze. I mean, it had everything. And you saw these incredible facilities, expensive, all failed, not due to COVID, due to just business is tough or shitty operators or whatever. And yet, did that ever deter you? You're like, my goal is to get my own space. And I'm just watching these like behemoth monsters just drop and die here in Charlotte. And as you were talking, you know, Charlotte seemed like a great market for fitness. It's got to be easy to make it here in the brick and mortar. Did that ever deter you?
No, not at all. It's funny because I remember being in college distinctively, like when I was shifting to be a personal trainer, I went to a gym and I was like, how much do you make, man? Like, cut it to me straight. You've been in the gym industry for 30 years. And he's like, I've never made more than $50,000. I'm like, I don't want to open a gym. So in my mind, the goal was to never open a gym. Just do personal training. Have somebody else foot the bill for the retail space. Take the responsibilities, and you'll see why when we talk about it later. You know why you don't want to have your own space sometimes. And like I was just like, let somebody else handle the responsibility. I just want to train people, and then I want to bring my own trainers in, and then we'll train people, and then we can start about giving you a cut and or paying rent for those people to come in and use the facility too, right? No, it never deterred me. And the biggest thing is that there was a common denominator in all those places. Crown Town had a great location. They had a fine facility, right? They had air conditioning, parking. Like it was easy. It was close to Uptown. Stacks was kind of same thing. Wasn't the best location, but it wasn't a terrible location. Facility was 10 out of 10. It was amazing. Everything was great about it. You know, the biggest thing, and even Charlotte Athletic Club, the biggest thing that I seen with a lot of those was like the operation that was being ran there was just so poor. None of those people actually wanted to own a gym and were passionate about helping people. Like, you know, like, let's go back to Stacks. Like, that was kind of like a tax write-off for those people. And a real estate.
Eric McCoy owns heels.com, right? He's not too worried about,
No. And there was like a lot of things going behind the scenes in that. We won't get into it, but there's a lot of things going behind the scenes with that, right? So, and then Crown Town, it was just like, you like said, a bunch of rich people. There's like, I just want to work out here. That's what you do when you're rich. You get to buy a gym and just hang out. And even though you're operating in the red month after month, you don't have that pressure because you're a millionaire.
Those are like, it's better than having to deal with my wife's shit about working out in the garage and my kids interrupting it. So me and my 7 rich friends split the fucking commercial.
And it made sense for them. You know, and that's great. Like I hope I'm able to just buy gyms one day because I just have so much money, right? So that was the same thing. They didn't care about, you know, getting better or anything like that. I even asked them multiple times, like, do you want me to help you with marketing? Do you want me to help you with this? Like, we can really make this place grow. And when I kept on saying that and offering like almost like advice to people and like unsolicited at times, right? But I felt like I'm like, all right, I'm offering these advice for people and I feel like I know how to grow this thing. And I just wanted to prove it without the responsibility. So I was like, oh, let me take Crown Town over. You still pay the rent.
Let me practice on someone else's dime.
On somebody else's dime. But I kind of already did that with my own business. I was already driving people in my own business, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe if I build it, they'll come. Maybe nobody's really succeeded in this space because nobody's built it the right way. I'm like, let's build it the right way, and then we'll just see what happens. And then what happened was explosive growth. I mean, it was crazy how fast. Like I was thinking, like, man, it's gonna take me a little bit to pay off and hit the green. And it was like first month, like we just crushed, right? So it was crazy how fast and how needed a space like this was in Charlotte. And I think that nobody offered it the right way because they try to offer too many things: CrossFit, personal training, this, and that. And you're gonna smorgasbord where I was just dialed in. This is only personal training. Only. Nobody else is allowed here unless
Yeah,
you train with us, right?
Yeah.
So I think it made it real simple for people to be like, this place is known for personal training.
Sure.
There's not a lot of places or facilities or gyms that are just known for personal training. Even Lifetime, which has good personal training, they're a gym first.
Correct.
It's a gym commercial space, right? A box gym, big box gym, and then it's like, but then they have the nutrition cafe, they have basketball, they have all that
fitness,
stuff. It's like, I just wanted to dial in and be one thing and one thing only, because that's just kind of what I'm good at, and it worked out that way.
So let's talk about, so at what point did you start, okay, I've got the clients, I'm saving cash. When did you begin your real estate search here in Charlotte?
So it started a year ago, over a year ago, gosh, like a year and a half ago. And it's funny because I thought I was just going to be able to like pay for the space and I'd move in a month later, you know? So I started in January of 2022 and I was like, my goal was to move in by April of 2022.
That's ambitious, my friend.
We didn't open until February of 2023. So 13 months later than, you know, when we started the search.
Dude, the first call when I have with someone on the gym real estate side and they're like, so what do you, I'm thinking we'll probably be in by this time. I'm like, and I'm thinking you're fucking high.
Yeah.
Like, I hate
so
the shit in
much
your cereals.
Yeah.
It could take us, it was like right now my average timeline is 9 months just to get a lease signed.
Yes, it takes so long.
And then I'm like, tack on your 6+ months of build out if it's extensive, maybe longer, it all depends. The timeline piece, it's like everything that has to get done, I always put in week blocks. Like you have to send one email to the engineer.
Yes.
Expect that entire
Yes.
thing to take a week to even for him to acknowledge and get moving on it. It's just
and it's the hardest
tough.
part. It's the hardest part of doing this entire process is that you get really discouraged because you're ambitious and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
You want to work fast.
You've got speed.
This is your life.
Yeah.
So you want to go fast. They don't care.
No.
Like they're making millions and millions
Yeah.
and like, you know, they're fine,
Yeah.
right? So they can go slow.
Yeah.
So you can go fast, slow. You're swift. You're passionate about it. So you're trying to get things done. I remember emailing every single day and be like, hey, did you give me an email? Did you give me an email? Did you give me an email? And it's like, I would hear back a month later, like, yeah, it looks good, but we need to change this one thing. And that takes a month. Like the redlining and leasing, like that took, I think, like 4 months.
Yeah.
It was back and forth, and it's like you're bitching with each other the entire time. And it's like, well, I want a bathroom. And it's like, well, no, we can only give you a sink and this. And it's like, well, I want tile. No, well, you can only do this. And we're only going to put the roof here. And it's like, every time you want one thing changed, it takes a week.
The biggest thing
it
is
takes
like
a long time.
the supply and demand. As a personal trainer in the fitness industry, generally you're like, okay, I can definitely take more clients. I'm looking to grow the business. So right. So I have more supply than there is demand. I'm trying to grow.
Right.
Then you go to these industries, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers, architects, brokers, landlords. They don't have that problem. They don't have the sense of urgency because they don't have the
There's
demand.
no shortage.
Correct. Yeah, there's no shortage.
Yeah.
The demand and the supply curve is 100% in their favor. So yeah, you have this high sense of urgency here on the entrepreneur looking to get started.
Right.
And then for the person in the gatekeepers, and there's several of them along the way. There's the city, there's zoning and all this shit. They're like, dude, get in line. You and fucking however many fucking case files I have on my desk right now. You're just one of them.
And I used to get butthurt and like, it was for the first time in my entire life, because I hate victims. For the first time in my entire life, I started to have pity on myself, and I'm like, poor me. I'm just like a young black man trying to make it. You know what I mean? I'm like trying to make it in the city. You know, I'm trying to like build something to help people, and these people won't let me help people. You know. And then I was just like, yo, this is just how it's done.
Yeah.
So you better suck it up. And this is why people will quit, and this is exactly why I'll probably always succeed, because I know people will quit before they even get to this point.
Yeah.
So I just know how much friction there is. So if you can make it past the friction, you're probably going to have a fruitful business, because there's a lot in it, and it deters people. And then people hear the stats of, you know, every business, 90% of businesses fail and stuff like that, and everything. And it's like, if you are willing to make it through it and you're truly passionate about it and you know your why and you understand it, like you probably will make it. You got to have a good business plan still.
Sure.
You can't just be passionate about something.
Yeah.
So you got to have a business plan.
The landlord doesn't take passion checks.
No, it does not. No whatsoever, right? But then it's like, if you're willing to wait the system and wait it out and, you know, like make sure that you're doing the redlining and taking your time with it and build it the right way, yeah, I think you're completely fine with it.
So when you hit the scene and you started searching, you're getting on LoopNet, you're looking at shit yourself. What were you, in your head, what were you originally conceiving and conceptualizing? Because a lot of times I'll get gym owners like, all right, so what's the search criteria? And they're like, oh, I've got no idea. I need you to help me out. Like, how much do I need, right? What's, and that's where you get into operational capacity. Like, okay, what's the business model? Is that personal training? Okay, I can get away with way less square footage than if we were running a 15-person group class type scenario. So talk to me about the beginning of the search. What were you looking for, and how did you kind of land on retail versus industrial and 1,000 square feet versus 3,000 square feet?
I think the one thing that I'm grateful about just in general is like, when I have a vision, it's really easy for me to lock in on it, and with that hyper focus, you can find stuff and you can move a little faster, right? So I just knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted a small space, anywhere from 1 to 2,000 square feet. I wanted to make it a pilot location to prove the concept to eventually open up the bigger gyms. I think people want to go too big at the beginning, and I was like, let me prove the concept first with a small location with like less risk involved, still can have a high ROI before I go open up this mega gym, right? Because I think people want to open up the mega gym, and everybody wants this big gym with all the rogue equipment and stuff like that. I'm like, can I do this pretty lean and smart and do this pilot location, and then we can expand from there. You can always expand later on. But if you go too big and bite off more than you can chew in the very beginning, then you will never be able to see that, fulfill that dream and to see it play out, right? So when I was looking at LoopNet and everything, I was trying to find spaces that were within a budget. I didn't want to pay more than like $3,000 a month.
Okay, so when you came up to $3,000 a month, how did you, because I normally back in a number, I'll take someone's total monthly revenue and I'm like, here's the deal. If we're spending more than 25% of what we make per month on rent, it's not going to leave enough cash flow for other things. So we want to stay at 25% or under typically.
And that was right where I was about.
Okay.
Yep. So I was bringing in almost like $10,000. Just for my own personal training. And so $3,000 was about 30%, right? And I was like, it's going to be lean and it's going to be hard, but like if we get a few trainers and maybe business grows, then who knows, right? But that was the push that I was willing to get. But I really wanted to stay at 2. Yeah, that's why I locked into this place. Is that too, right?
So and talk to me. So let's talk. So you're searching. How did this come on your radar? Did your broker find it? Did you find it on LoopNet, or did you just walk by and be like, ain't nobody fucking in there? Let me find out who manages this.
Yeah, it's funny because like me and my wife have bought 2 houses now, and it's we both recommended it to our real estate agent and like, hey, this house just came out. Can we go see it, right? Same thing happened with this location. My broker sent me a few things, and I'm like, oh, whatever, But then I'm driving. I used to live right here, so I drove by here, and I'm like, that's an empty space right there. This is 5 minutes from my house. I'm like, this space has been empty for a while, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna go get some information on it. This has been sitting here for 13 years. I'm like, oh, they should be ready to give this place up basically to anybody, right? And I'm like, let's see it out and everything. And there's a reason why I was sitting here for so long, right? But yeah, when I passed by it, I was like, dude, this would be a perfect location. Look at all the natural lighting. Look at the convenience it is, the uptown. We have parking in here. I'm like, there's a lot of the things, like the big friction points of getting somebody to get into your gym, it's crossing off all those things,
Retail storefront, good pedestrian sidewalks, residential, you're in earshot. When traffic's backed up, everyone has to stop
the
here and look in.
The stadium is right here. People pass by the stadium. There's people in Panthers gear, Charlotte FC gear walking by. They grab a business card on the door.
We're towards the west side. For those of you not familiar with Charlotte, we're on the slightly west side of the city. If we were to rotate this completely and he was on the south side, the south end side, this would be a 3 to 4x higher rent than what it is.
Easily.
So you found this. And the other thing I want to talk about is the broker. It's crazy. People, I'm always like, I'm probably not going to find your space. Like me, your broker, whoever, we have this national database of listings, and I'm going to send them to you. And when new things pop up based on the criteria, send to you. But I promise you, it is going to be serendipity and just chance. And it always is. I've always had a broker, and I found every space myself. And it was like, oh, I heard a dude at Starbucks talking about that business going out of bed. I'm like, oh, fuck, and I drove by, and it was serendipity. I'm like, the broker should ideally come in at the point of negotiation, helping you figure out, is this the right space based on the business model, and making sure you don't get fucked in your lease and everything in the lease is buttoned up, especially for fitness use where, that's a triple, your next door neighbor is an office. But if that was a fucking cafe or a coffee shop and someone was over here making a little bit too noise and vibration, you'd have a fucking issue.
Exactly.
Okay, so you land on this spot. Talk to me about what the process looked like from that point.
Yeah, so checked out the spot, loved it. I'm already painting the picture in my head of what this place is gonna look like. It's gonna look sick. We're gonna do black walls. We're gonna hang these mirrors up. It's gonna look great, right?
And how many square feet is this exactly?
This is 1,200 square feet.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, 1,200 square feet. And I was like, 1,200 square feet. I was kind of mapping out in my head. I'm like, how much square foot does a person need to work out?
Sure.
That's what I was kind of thinking about.
What are you paying rent here?
2,100.
Cool. So if we go 2,100,
it's like 25 square foot per year.
Yeah. So we got times 12. Boom. Yeah. So 20. So it's probably a triple net lease.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So you're about 21 at base plus $4 or so in triple net fees.
Yeah.
And again, everyone on the triple net side, great for landlords, shitty for tenants, because the tenant now is going to be responsible if the property taxes go up. Boom, you're going to get your rent's going to go up.
Which they do in Charlotte.
If the insurance goes up, you're going to pay more of that, or just common area maintenance, right? If some shit goes down, and this common area, these rocks or whatever the fuck it is, someone comes in and just fucks all this up. That's going to be on your next year's, your triple net fees are going to go up. And that's where like the tricky thing is. Everyone looks on LoopNet like, dude, Stu, this thing is $18 a square foot. I'm like, like, it's triple net. So it's probably like 23 a square foot, right? And they
it can go up.
Yeah, and they dupe you into it. They're like, oh yeah, it's 21. And then you get in the conversation like, how do you go from 21 to 26? And they're like, oh, well, it's a triple net lease. Don't you idiot? You don't know what this means?
Hard. I feel like it was hard to find anything without a triple net.
Oh, no one does it anymore.
Yeah, I didn't see
unless
anything
it's industrial where they're like, we have no HVAC. Yeah. We have like, it's just bare bones. They'll do like a gross lease where like flat rate, you pay that.
That is what it is, but you're responsible for everything anyways out of pocket.
Yeah, but a growing city like Charlotte's the thing is like, everyone's like, I want to be in a growing area. I'm like,
it's hard to
well, the landlord wants you to, he wants to also make sure that your rent is going to cover his costs that he's not in control of. Like the insurance and like, I brought that brewery in. I never took the time to think when I brought the brewery in from a fitness shoes, my insurance would skyrocket. And it's like, of course it is. There's drunk people in here.
That makes sense.
I mean, there's clauses in the lease for fights and assault and all kinds of shit. And I'm like, holy shit, my insurance, it just skyrocketed. And that unfortunately impacted the overall leasing rate that we had to achieve in order to create a margin.
Yeah, you had to increase the price for it, right? Yeah, and we came in here and I love the price, even at 25 a square foot with the triple net, right? I was looking at places in the worst area in Wesley Heights, and it was 45 a square foot. And I'm like, these places have been sitting here for years. And I don't know if you've noticed that as well. And I'm like, these places are gonna sit for a while because like what business is gonna be able to buy 3,000 square foot for 45 a square foot, which is like a $7,000 payment, $8,000 payment, and it's like, make money. You know, like that's why there's not a lot of small businesses I feel like opening up in Charlotte, and a lot of franchises are opening up here. So my thing was like, I got to get in here before a franchise like an Equinox or a Lifetime or something like that tries to come in here and tries to do the same thing, right?
So you got your 1,200 square feet. You know, you're around $2,100 a month, but you got to also, did you have to do first month and a security deposit? Yep. So at lease signing, you're coming out of pocket almost $4,200.
But the big things that we negotiated was like, I'm like, I need time to build this out. And you guys are taking so long on this, and like I was importing all my equipment, so I wanted to do it as lean as possible. So I was importing all my equipment from China, right? So I was importing it all. I'm like, we got to get it dropped off here at a certain time. Like we got to make sure that it's we can build the gym out. Like I'm not going to open up and then to sit here and like build it while paying rent. Like that's how you lose money. So I was like, you got to give me 4 months. 4 months to build it out after the lease starts. So as soon as the lease was executed, I still had 4 months to get all my equipment in here, to get everything, all my ducks in a row, get the business started. And if you're smart and they don't check, like you should start your first month of business on their dollar, right? So I finished a month early, and I was like, okay, let's do like a soft launch. Like let's get people in here, let's get my clients in here before we start blasting out marketing. And it got the system oiled, right? So that way I'm like, all right, we know how to do the parking now. We know how to get people in here, get them out of here, etc. I'm like, these are the things I want to change before I want to actually open up.
So what did you guys are negotiating lease rate. How long of a lease did you sign?
5 years.
5 years renewables on those?
Yes.
Cool. So you got a 5 years. Do you have an annual escalator? Like does it go up by a percentage every year?
It goes up by I think 2% every single year.
Got it. So got an annual escalator in there, and when it came time to be like, okay, was this was just a shell open space, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you're coming in here, and was the bathroom already here?
There's just a place for a toilet.
A place for a toilet. They haven't even plumbed it in. There's no toilet there. So how did the construction? Sometimes landlords will say, I'll give you $7 a square foot or whatever the number, or a total number for you to build out whatever, and the rest is on you. Or they're going to say, I'm not giving you anything, but I'm going to give you free rent for a period of time. How did you guys negotiate construction costs?
This is where everything's going to drive you nuts right here, because like what the broker for the landlord's going to say, right? Is completely different of what they're actually willing to do.
Did you have an independent broker representing you?
I had an independent broker representing me.
Separate
and then the broker for the, I don't know, what do you call that? Do you call that broker?
So it's definitely like the landlord's agent?
Their agent, right? So their agent's like, we'll put a shower in for you. We'll put the floor in for you.
We're going to have a guy blow you the second you walk in every day. Whatever you want.
We'll do anything. We'll cook you breakfast for every single day for the first 5 years.
It seems so perfect.
It's so perfect. And you get down to it, and it's like, we're actually only going to do like a soft box, or like a, what is it called, softbox? Is that what it is when they just put the walls up, right? They're like, we're just gonna do like basically the walls, you know? They're like, we're gonna do the walls, and I was like, so that's when we negotiated. Hey, I'm like, hey, paint, you gotta do the paint. And I'm like, I want the open ceiling. I want an open ceiling, because this was all open. They're like, no way we're doing an open ceiling. It's too expensive to do an open ceiling. So I don't know if that was a reason or is an excuse, because it seemed a little bit like an excuse. I'm like, how is no ceiling more expensive? But it's because they had to change how the HVAC was set up.
Correct, yeah. So a lot of people want like exposed whatever. And so there's also like the landlord wants these spaces contingent so that they all kind of look similar. So there's that. And his guess is the majority of tenants wouldn't want the exposed.
Totally.
The majority, right? So they're going to go with that. But then once you're going to close this thing in, you're able to keep, like, it also the exposed ceiling. If you don't want all your AC to go right through it, you got to spray foam that motherfucker, and it gets crazy expensive.
And that's where they were like, we're not willing to do that. And like, this is all stuff that we said we're going to do. And then we've argued about the ceiling height. They wanted to bring it, so this is a gym. They wanted to bring the ceiling down to 12 feet.
No.
And I'm like, dude, where somebody's going to do a pull-up, put their head through the ceiling. And I'm like, it has to be 20 at least. It's not even, not even close. So we went back and forth, and they finally put it up to 20, right? They put the bathroom in, and the bathroom was at like 7 feet. And I'm like, you got to bring that up like a, you know what I mean? Like you're you're sitting in a box, right? And I'm like, there's little things like that. You're just
Porta
negotiating.
potties are taller than 7 feet.
That's what I'm saying. So you get all this promise from the agent, the broker, but then when it comes down to the actual lease, they're not promising much. So they were willing to do the soft box, and they're willing to paint. Those are the two things that I got. And then I negotiated like, hey, put an office in for me, right? Make sure there's a bathroom in here, right? So those are the two things. Then we negotiated on parking forever. Parking was a huge thing to negotiate on.
So for this space, guys, this is a retail storefront attached to a parking garage and a residential unit, right? An apartment complex. So you pull into the parking garage and you've got X amount, you've got Intertia designated spaces. Your neighbor, the AAA office, has AAA designated spaces. But then the leasing office also wants to have their future resident parking, right? And you're going to have, some chick's fuckface boyfriend's going to park in one of your spots overnight, and then a client can't find anything, and you try going down these residential streets, and there's, you got to have a residential parking permit if you want to get there. So parking is huge. So how many spaces were you granted?
So we got 4 for our clients, and then we got 3 behind the gate for staff employees. Awesome. And they only gave me 1 key fob for 3 employees. So that was not like you got to fight for it. You had to fight. To like inch to the nail, like get every little inch that there is. It's like, give me an extra key fob. And they're like, well, it's $250 for a key fob. I'm like, bro, I am locking in 5 years at this rate, and like you never had anybody else in here. I don't know if you have that much leverage. It's been 13 years that this has been sitting here empty, cobwebs. And like now you're gonna try to like
you want to shit on this,
so like we ended up like that's how it was. It's like that's why it took so long because I fought, but now it's like worth it because it was worth getting those little extra things because you can't get a parking spot later on. So it was worth to get the parking spots right then and there.
How long did that process take from the time you guys submitted your letter of intent, your LOI, to actually getting the lease finalized and signed? Because that's where most of the
March to September or October. So about 6-7 months.
It is, and it's like you go through red lines. You feel like you like after you've done this once, you're like, I feel like I fucking have a legal degree in leases. Like I know every like the red lines, and you're looking at it.
You read like 50 pages, and you read like almost every single thing.
100%.
And then the lawyer explains what it means to you, and then your broker explains it. If you have a good broker, they'll explain what that means to you. And you're asking the broker, I'm like, hey, am I crazy to ask for this? And he's like, well, like you might as well ask him. Like, get shot down.
You can always ask.
You get shot down, and then maybe you find somewhere in the middle. So I'm like, hey, shoot for the stars, man. And you land on the moon. That's a good compromise. But yeah, I would fight for it a little bit, so that way you can get a little pliability. Like I asked for like, hey, can we have a certain budget for floors, or a certain budget for paint, or a certain budget for this stuff? They shut that down. They're like, hey, we're giving you such a low rate as far as like your square footage that we're not going to do that. And I thought that was fair.
So what out of your pocket did you have any like what was your cost for getting it outside of your equipment?
Outside of the equipment,
do you have to pay for anything? Like, do you have to pay for the toilet? Do you have to pay for the signage? Nothing. Cool. So they took care of all that.
They took care of all that. Yeah.
And then your equipment, which I love, I want to talk about. So you went ahead and went, instead of going and, because again, at the end of the day, 3x3 gauge steel is 3x3 gauge steel. I have a lot of guys hit me up like, dude, Stu, I quoted Rogue and Fringe Sports and this, but I can go direct again overseas and get something for a 1/5 of the price.
Right.
It's like on certain things, I think go with it. If it's metal, steel, fab, stuff like that, I go for a kind of scenario. You get into things that are a med ball that's stitched and things that whatever. Those are the things that you're probably going to realize the quality sooner than later. But fucking 3x3 gauge steel is 3x3 gauge.
I mean, you're paying the racks alone. We're going to be like from Rogue. You're going to pay like $2,000 for some of these racks, right? And nobody cares.
No.
I'm training housewives here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't care if the rack can handle 1,500 pounds. Stuff. Who's doing 1,500 pounds?
Sure.
They're lucky if they're picking up the barbell, right? You know what I mean? So we didn't need anything crazy and over the top, and they don't know the difference between Rogue. They're not coming in here and being like panty dropping over Rogue, right? And being like, we're going to sign up because you have Rogue equipment. They're just signing up if the walls look nice. And you have a neon sign, and if it's Instagrammable. They didn't care about the equipment. So we had to have good enough equipment, and there's already some things like some of the stuff is rusting and some of the stuff is going bad, so we've slowly replaced that for higher quality stuff.
Yeah.
But like I said, I wanted to get in as lean as possible, and then you open up another location, you know what things that you can outsource from China, and you know what stuff you can get from Rogue, right? And you just know where the compromises are for that. But yeah, what's worth saving, like when I first did a quote from like Rogue and all that stuff, my gym build was like $70,000, and I ended up getting it for under 30.
Yeah.
So
and even if it rusted, it starts to deteriorate. You could then put it on the resale market, and you could capture some cash back. But again, it's like in the beginning, because there's generally not a huge pool of runway for most of the gyms. We don't have a ton of cash sitting there. Start it as lean as possible. Don't blow your fucking runway early, and then have to pray to God that you pre-sell 30 fucking clients. Just to get you into the black.
Well, now I've got to use the extra $40,000 for marketing.
Yes.
And now you're crushing it. Now, like marketing is actually going to get you clients. Rogue is not going to get you clients.
No.
Nobody's like you took a picture of your rack and like people are like, whoa, Well, I mean, if you're a girl,
right.
You take a picture of your rack and get some people in.
You can get.
But for a barbell rack, like that's not going to get people in, right? It's going to be your marketing efforts. It's going to be the knowledge that you have. It's not going to be like what kind of equipment you have. But then if you're working in a niche, like if you're working on CrossFit, they probably care about that stuff more, right? If you're working on more of a specialized thing, it's a powerlifting gym. They care if you have a certain cage, and they care if you have a deadlift platform and stuff like that. Like I said, we're training general pop here, the people that actually have the money to spend on very expensive personal training. That's what I want. I wanted the people that have the money and they don't care about the equipment. They just care about the person, and they care about what this looks like, and they care about having privacy. So since
for a lot of trainers that are renting space and you move spot to spot around the city, there's always the question, will everyone follow me over here? So there's a little attrition, but typically you said if you've created that relationship and they like your shit, it's it probably doesn't mean that much more to them, whatever. So and also there's the moment when you tell them, hey, I fucking pulled the trigger, I'm opening my spot.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And they fucking rah you up. They love it. And you can, I've got guys right now where it's like, okay, we can, for this, you got 20 diehards. Let's pre-sell a year's worth of training up front because we needed some cash flow because to do some of the construction. You have some options at that point. So when you came in here, all the clients are in. What did that look like? Did you? I mean, because you already had cash flow, so you didn't have to focus on a pre-sell, but you just mentioned the marketing. What is the marketing efforts, like paid marketing efforts that you've used? What's worked? What hasn't?
Yeah, so Google crushes. I think Google is one of the most underrated things for any trainer.
Just doing your pay-per-click, you
can pay per click. It's even having to Google My Business. That's free.
Got it. Yeah.
I feel like most trainers, like they just, like I said, they run the John Smith business, and it's like John Smith Fitness, and they run it out of their garage, and it's like they at least have a Google My Business, even if it's at a location. If you don't have a location, that's where it gets a little tricky, but you can still have a Google My Business there. And that Google My Business, like people start leaving reviews, and then when people type in, because where do people find personal training? It's either like on social media, or word of mouth, or it's Google. They Google it. So they type in personal training near me, or like a personal trainer near me. They're gonna type in all that fitness center near me, private boutique gym near me. They're gonna type in all that stuff, and then you're gonna pop up in one of those things. But if you have no reviews or you don't pop up on there, they're gonna go to your competitors. So Google just crushes for us. Like Google has done everything. So much so where I was like, oh wow, you don't need social media. I think everybody leads with social media and posts all this content all the time and spends a lot of money on content. I love content. We have a $5,000 camera set up. I love content. I love posting it. But the content should be almost like this portfolio for you to showcase like how skilled you guys are. But then you go to the Google My Business and you see the actual views, and you go to our website, and then you have your funnel and everything. And so yeah, I think that Google is I think it's almost underrated at this point. It's crazy, right? Google, I love social media, and the social media, I think people are using it almost the wrong way. You can do paid social media. Our account got blocked, and there's
it happens.
COVID stuff, like you post like, hey, let's go work out, and then they don't like that, so they block your account, right? But so we can't run paid advertising for social media. You can use loopholes and stuff like that, but I'm like, you know what? We'll use it if we need it, right? But on social media, it was all about posting content, but then, dude, I just DM'd everybody. It's like, hey, new facility, private facility. Hit up every influencer I knew in the city, and I was like, come check it out. We'll train you. No strings attached. You don't have to post a picture or anything. But guess what? You get 5 influencers who all have this web that crosses each other, and they all post Intertia Fitness. And now I realize, like, my 5 favorite influencers in Charlotte post Intertia Fitness. Let me go check this out. And that's absolutely crushed for us.
People don't realize that influencer play is so interesting. It's like you invite them in and be like, listen, you don't have to do whatever. And by you saying that, it takes down a barrier of entry for them. Like, oh, they just want me for my following or whatever. You say that, but in the back of your head, you know, they're going to take fucking pictures.
They're
it's like inviting an alcoholic over and like, look at my new bourbon selection, but you don't have to, you're going to drink anything. Like, he's going to fucking drink.
Right. They can't help but post pictures.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Also, it just network. And again, like fitness influencers too, there's a certain point where if it doesn't crest for them and they don't make it beyond it, you start thinking about like, well, what do I have that opportunity? It might, like, I've got to do some personal training, right? So like you might with your model in here, because you guys, 1099s come in here, or they W-2s, how do you work?
So they're contractors. Yep. So I bring them in and, I treat them like employees. I try to treat them as good as possible, but I'm like, hey, you take a vacation when you want, you make your schedule, you do whatever. Maybe in the future we'll W-2 and be able to give, we wanted to make a place, like the biggest passion about opening up Intertia was I see a lot of other trainers that were in my position that were going home to home to home to home and trying to find a place where they can train their people. And they're like, I just want a personal train. I don't know how to do the business. I don't know how to do that. And I'm like, let me handle that. I love business. So I'll handle the business. You come home in Intertia and just do what you're good at, which is personal training, right? So I know a lot of personal trainers don't make a lot of money. So I'm like, I want to be the place that's known to help personal trainers make 6 figures.
Sure.
Right? And we have a model that's built that way. And it was kind of crazy when I had that first guy come in here. He was super doubtful. He was working at the Y, working between here. He was working 47 hours at the Y, like training, all these old people at the Y. He comes here, he's working probably 28 hours now, and he's already doubled his salary, his income, right? So that's the big thing. It's like I wanted to make a good place because if you take care of your trainers good, they're going to take care of their clients good. They take care of their clients good. That takes care of the business good. It's a win-win-win. I love situations where almost everybody can win.
And the growth opportunity too, because when you think about like, okay, so if Intertia, you get this thing going and you're like, on paper, this thing is bankable, it's investable, it's whatever. Right. The thing that allows you to continue to pop open, and again, when you look at this model, everyone's telling like, so what, if I want to franchise something, what do I need to think? Like first and foremost, it's got to be as small square footage as possible. Right. The operational capacity is so important due to the fact that if you're going to be here 10 years, if you're at $25 all in right now, and you've got that 2% escalator, so you're going to be here for 10 years, you're going to have a 20% increase at a certain point. And at the end of 5, they can probably renegotiate a different rate, right?
And they will try to.
And they will. So it's like you've got to be able to, you got to have a fat fucking margin. 30% is the gold standard for us in this industry. But you got to have as fat a margin as possible to withstand that operating cost. But you want to grow this thing. The trainers are going to eventually want to be like, I don't want to always train. I'd like to own my own Intertia, and then you can create a license model, franchise model, whatever it is, and you home grow them in here. I brought them as a shitty trainer. They're killing it. 5 years later, they're opening Intertia Southside or whatever the fuck it is, and now I can grow all this, and it's all with I built the culture. It's not versus the franchise market. You're throwing your fishing line out there, and you're hoping that douchebags don't. But it's hard when they're going to cut you a $40,000 initial franchisee fee.
You're going to take it, and then they're going to go.
All right, well, we'll figure it out later with him. Versus when you can home grow, and if you really want to, talk about a higher skill set. Training someone, let's say you could train someone for $100 an hour. You're that good of a personal trainer. You can charge $300, $400, $500, $600, $1,000. You charge a lot more when you're doing B2B. You're helping trainers grow a business because your time is far more valuable. Because for fitness is fickle. It's right. It's like, oh, I want to get in shape for my Bahamas trip. I want to do this. I want to do that. But it's fickle. It ebbs and flows. Like you have clients who are like all in it, and then the fourth quarter hits, November, December, January. Maybe they get slow. They drop the fuck off. Business owners, that pain point is so fucking strong. You can monetize that at a real much higher value. Essentially, you're creating like you ever Y2 Combinator, right? It's like it's the incubator for SaaS and tech products out in California. So kind of like an incubator. I'll bring you in. You're a personal trainer making dick. I'm going to make you a personal trainer making a shit ton, and eventually show you how you could open one of your own of these. It's your own like mini school.
And that's literally, you just took the words out of my mouth. I'm like, this is behind the scenes we call it Intertia University. Because we teach clients how to actually live a healthy lifestyle rather than just depending on the trainer. We have a graduation for our clients and saying, hey, you graduated personal training. Now you can do online training. So now we keep these people online even though they're not in the space. So that brings in income even though we're not using the square footage of the space now, right? So then now our trainers are going to be like, 20 hours in person in the gym, 10 hours online. They don't have to use the space. I can get another trainer to slide in here and use the time, right? So we want to run it really efficiently like that. But yeah, exactly how it's meant. It's meant to train the trainers on how to be better business people if they want that, right? So my one trainer, he's like, I'm really interested in opening, like running this place one day. And so he's like my right-hand man, and I'm teaching him all the things and how to run this place. I'm giving him opportunities to grow and stuff like that. And then we're bringing in young trainers that don't have any experience. And I'm like, hey, listen, we'll put you at a super low rate, and then we'll have you train, but then you're gonna be with another trainer as well, right? So now I have my guy who wants to be this mentor, who wants to be this manager. He's looking over the young guys. We're still making him money, and we're giving a product that is still inertia and still this high valuable product. But at the same time, we're doing it at a lower rate for those people that can't actually afford it. So then we're getting people in here as well, right? So it's kind of this system that kind of feeds, but then that trainer's gonna be really good. And since I gave him his first shot, he's probably never gonna leave inertia now, right? So that was the whole point, is like building a culture to where, you're incubating your own personal trainers here. And you're kind of creating your own like university, your certificate maybe. Maybe one day we have a certificate and you get this inertia certified, right? Where it's like, this is teaching you how the business of personal training, not just like nutrition or all these stuff that you can Google real quick, right? You can Google business stuff, but it's the other thing to actually do it and actually succeed in it, right? So yeah, I think that's the big model of it, is like, how can we use this pilot location to eventually expand, and almost like throwing seeds out into the, into the soil, and like, how can these things pop up, sprout, and hopefully flourish.
So when this thing is packed out, right? Like when you guys are kind of like your max capacity, what does that look like, and how do you like in space? Because again, you want to go tight to keep your operating expenses down. At the same time, though, that also comes with having to create a flow of like clients and hey, trainer, you're working here, whatever. You can't be consuming all this extra space. How do you guys work the flow for one-on-one training if you were to have 3 or 4 trainers in here at a time?
Yeah, so that's actually funny. I was at my barbershop, and this is where I had the idea of inertia. I was like, everybody has their chair, and everybody's getting their hair cut, but I'm not that far away from the other guy that's getting his hair cut. And we're kind of talking, we're all riffing off each other in the whole barbershop. It kind of just works. Even though there's 10 men in the same room, and it's like 800 square feet. It's chill. It's expected. And that's what I wanted. I'm like, this is each person's chair. So each rack is a person's chair, right? It's like, this is where this trainer trains, right? So this is Christian's spot, this is Lexi's spot, this is Ashton's spot. And we all have our own little area. And then we do community events once a month. So that way our clients get to meet each other. So that way when they're all in the gym, they're all like, oh, hey, how you doing? Yeah. And it's not awkward, like, oh, who's this person working out next to me? They all kind of know each other. And they all have been trained by the trainers. Like sometimes I'll leave for vacation, I'll substitute teacher where my trainer will train my client. So then they get used to that trainer being there. Oh, hey, Christian. Hey, Ashton. Now it's building this community in a space where one-on-one's usually lonely, and it's usually just dial it in with this person. And now we're creating a community, which is often why CrossFit and group classes succeed, because you create that community around it. So how could you create community and one-on-one personal training, but then also give it this own, like you have your own bubble still, right? So when the flow is working in here, you come in, you know where your trainer's at. The trainer's at your assigned spot, right? If we have a tall client, they use the bigger rack, right? You know, and then it's like we ask, like, hey, are you doing cable stuff? And then because we do everything on Trainerize, which is the app that we use for all of our online stuff, we can all see each other's workouts. So for example, and we all have a Google Calendar where we see like what kind of person they're training. And it's like, oh, usually when Christian's in here with Brendan, he's just going to do powerlifting stuff. So he's going to probably use the middle rack, and he's going to be. It's just that communication and having that expectation, and all the trainers know how to work around each other really well, right?
But that, I mean, what you talked there is what I call like that in-place model, right? It's why spin studios and yoga studios crush it on from an OpCap perspective, because a client comes in and boom, that's it, and they don't leave that spot, and it's the easiest way to create the highest amount of revenue per square foot. Because if you were to break it down and you're like, okay, in a given day, how many sessions would you guys say on average would you guys do in here within a day?
In a day, there's probably anywhere from 12 to 15.
Okay. And are you this Monday through Sunday? Are the weekends pretty low?
Monday through Saturday.
Saturday
ends up getting pretty busy.
Okay. So if we've got, that's 5 days a week and 12 to 15, let's cut in the middle and just go 14. And that's 20 days out of the month. So 20 days out of the month, let's say we're doing 14 sessions a day. And so that's 280 total sessions. And you start thinking, you do the math and reverse into it. My rent, the $2,100, divided by just business hours. And this is how much I'm paying per square foot. Because I invested X amount, every one of these. And that's one of the things that I love, like this grid here, because you can start, because this is what,
these are almost 3 by 3.
Yeah, I would say 3 by 3s. Yeah. So you can start, you can literally do the math and be like, each one of these costs me, boom. And then I need to generate X amount more than what this space cost me per day.
Right.
And I get to this like microeconomics thing. Like when you really understand the microeconomics of like where square footage is and what eats it up and all that other stuff, like it's absolutely insane. You can walk in any gym and just see like, oh, that's probably $700 a month wasted space right there. Like you don't even need that square footage, or you haven't activated that, or whatever the fuck it may be. Like with you guys putting this really nice turf right here in the front, because that's a high action kind of move. If someone's doing lunges or they're pushing a sled or whatever they're doing here, right in front of the high visibility piece, right? That's gonna be way better than if you had put that squat rack right in front of there, because then Sally walks by and she sees some dude squatting out there. She might, not that, but again, the kind of movements you do right here, you want to have those high visibility pieces. That's why when I do Globo gyms, we put all the cardio shit as close to the front as possible of the tour, because you just want to attract, show what's most inclusive to the average person from a movement perspective.
Right.
Now, and when you think of growth in here, like in your head, you're like, okay, I'm probably capped at X amount of trainers. Like, and do you have like, okay, we're not bringing in any more trainers. We're going to stick with the current ones. And then is there ever like, all right, trainer X isn't generating enough of their own business here? We're seeing a struggle. Like what happens then? Because when you've got these 1099s, they're paying you a flat rate, right? Or they pay a percentage?
It's commission.
Okay, it's commission based. So they're paying commission based. If they're not generating, you might have someone next on the docket that you met that you might want to get in here. How has that looked? How do you think about that going forward?
So I've already had to let go of somebody.
Okay,
Yeah, and that's just because like it was more of a culture fit though. I hired her and it was like before we even opened up the space, and this wasn't fitting the right way, right? And I was like, you're not having that growth. You promised all this growth that you were going to have. You promised you're going to be this trainer. You promised you were going to learn, and you have a lot of learning to do, but you're not doing that, right?
Sure.
And I was like, all right, well, I got to let you go, right? There's no longer, I'm going to refund your clients if you need to refund and all that stuff, and you can train, you can finish out your clients here if you want, and of course they don't want to, right?
Sure.
So that I refund their clients, and it's better just to cut that off, and then I bring in another person right behind it, and then they've crushed, right? I think when I look back at it, I look at time slots. I don't want any more than 4 trainers in there at a time. Probably 3 to play it safe because of the parking spots and stuff like that. It gets kind of messy, but I don't want many more than 4 trainers at a time. Right now, we're all in the morning. We probably are only in here 5 hours in the evening.
Got it.
So we have a ton of space to grow. Like, so if I can bring a trainer in and be like, hey, you only push evenings.
If you need evening class,
Yep, you only push evenings, right? You have a job in the morning and you want to work part-time in the evenings, you want to work from 5 to 8, great. You have Monday through Saturday to be able to get that done, right? So I think that there's a lot of room to grow even in that. And I think you could probably have like 6, 7 trainers, but only have 4 trainers in at a time, because each one of them can work at specific times, right?
Sure.
I love the part-time trainer that's also like, I like my do or die and all-in trainers where like this, I want to make a career out of it. I love those people, right? But I also like the really part-time trainers like, hey, I just want to train like one person 5 p.m. 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So that makes it super simple.
Utility
I know
players,
their schedule. They fit in. It's kind of like when that analogy when you have like a glass and you put some rocks in it and they're like, all right, this glass is full. And it's like you put some sand in it and then it's like this glass is full and you put some water in it. It fills up all the cracks. I'm trying to fill in every little crack that I can, right? To obviously get the most ROI out of here, but then not ruin the actual experience of it, because then if it's like it feels cramped, you can go to the Dowd and feel cramped and feel like, that doesn't feel luxury. That doesn't feel like something worth paying for. So I think there's a fine line of making it feel like it's spaced enough in here and it's private enough, but also making sure that we're getting enough people in here to maximize the hour that we're in here.
Because you got two marketing. You have a B2C where you're bringing clients in, and then there's B2B where I'm trying to find other trainers who might want to occupy. I've got all this dead time I'm trying to fill. So let's say it's B2C, and let's say someone walks by and they just open the door and they're like, hey, is this a gym? Like, we want to know whose role and whatever is it to go and do that sales pitch.
Yeah, so all my trainers are ready for that.
Got it.
So all my trainers are ready for that. All my trainers are ready for the evaluation. If I'm talking to you to be a trainer here, that's because I already believe in your ability to train people. I really don't think, this is maybe offend the trainers out there, I don't think it's that hard to train people. It shouldn't be. It is sometimes, I get it. There's some bad trainers out there.
It is not brain surgery, and especially when you're working at the GPP level.
Yeah,
when you're working with the average person, you need to know the basics, but this idea of like, I'm a world-class trainer, I'm like, of who? They're like, so ridiculous. Moms and dads in their 40s. I'm like,
right.
No, you are not. A world-class trainer is the guy who's been coaching the ski luge for fucking 70 years.
Exactly.
That guy is
that's like a specialist, right? And those guys are elitists in the field of personal training.
Correct.
Like everybody can teach how to like do like a sit up and like what I mean. Like you did the test, and I just need you to do the test and like prove to me that you're good, that's it. But then teaching them the sales pitch, the business side of it, all that different kind of stuff. That's where I really go hard with those people in the first couple weeks. So they watch me do it, they shadow me, I shadow them, they do it by themselves. We look at their numbers, you're not closing. Let's go back to, a little performance enhancing plan again and like make sure that we're helping you out and go through training. And that's kind of like the cycle through it. But everybody is equipped to be able to, somebody walks into this door and they're able to answer any questions and kind of explain what this is.
How do they run it if they're training it? Like what's the protocol? Because this was something I've had studios run into. Johnny's training Sally. Prospect opens the doors, hey, whatever, and it's like, well, fuck, you're the paying customer. I got to do this. I got to do this here. I got to do a quick, like, hey, hold on a second. Go talk to him. I just need to capture his contact information as fast as fucking possible and be like, dude, I'm gonna call you as soon as I'm done with my session with my client. Is that kind of how that works?
Kinda. So like, and the thing is that if Johnny's doing a really good job with Sally, Sally wants Johnny to succeed.
Sure.
So she's like, yeah, go get it. Like, I'll hit the set. And they've been working together. If it's like a newer client, then it's like maybe like, hey, hold on a second, I'll be right back, right? And then we have business cards that have QR codes. Scan the QR code, you instantly put an evaluation. We'll talk to you then. We'll hit you up right after that. So something real fast. It does all the explaining for us. It has scan the QR code, has a video, explains what we do. So we don't have to do it. People are like, oh, what are you gonna do? Like people want to like mosey on and in here and just be like, they want this like long drawn out explanation. I'm like, do you actually want to talk? You want to like get help or whatever? Like if you just want to come check out the place and you're curious, that's cool. But if you actually want to work business with me, then scan this card. If you're serious, you'll scan this, you'll fill out an evaluation sheet, and then you'll be ready to come in here and we'll get you in as fast as possible. So I think that's the way that we made it a little bit more seamless. It usually takes a minute to have that conversation. Hey, what can I help you out with? Oh, I'm looking for, is this a gym? No, what do you think it is? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a gym. I'm like, it's more of a private facility, right? And they're like, oh, okay. So what do you guys do here? Personal training. We do, small group training, nutrition coaching, but that's it, right? And they're like, oh, okay. So can I come work out here? No, you can't. It's a private facility unless you have a trainer, right? Oh, okay, cool. Then if I want a trainer, what do? You just scan this QR code. All the information is going to be there. If there's any other questions, you can text me. Obviously, the number is right there. And if not, I'm going to reach out to you since you filled out the evaluation sheet. All right, and I think it makes it really seamless. So I hate business cards. I really do. I think they're kind of like
it works as a QR tag.
That's what I like it for.
Because otherwise, it's like here, you throw it away.
Exactly. I don't want them to type in IntertiaFitnessCo.com. That's just like too wordy. I don't want them to go to my Instagram. Like that just feels unprofessional. So it's easy as scan. Boom. It takes you right to that evaluation. It doesn't take you to the homepage. Homepage just doesn't matter. Like take me to the stuff that's going to get me the client. So it takes them to that evaluation. If they're serious, they're going to fill it out. And if they're not, they'll click and explore the website and then maybe go fill it out, right? But it gets them to our website.
Sure.
And if they sign up for an email list and like, I'm just gonna kind of watch. And it's like they get the emails and they're like, you know what, these people are doing cool things. Let me go actually sign up for their evaluation. So it's all about capturing that person, no matter what. Whether it's their attention, whether it's their Instagram, whether it's their phone number, whether it's their email. You just want to capture a person. Especially with this, like we've got a decent amount of leads coming in here, like just from being here.
It's a great, I run past you guys constantly and it's just, this is such a good constant thoroughfare, especially, with the residential right across the street and everything that's going on. You guys nailed it. How have you been successful at all in working with the apartment complex and anything to do that? My guess is they probably have some kind of shitty fitness facility on site. Correct. Do they let trainers rent space out of there that you have to compete with? Or are they able to help promote you guys at all?
Yeah, so, we just don't have a good relationship with them. Just because of the HVAC stuff, we have had a lot of issues. So we don't have I try to have a good relationship with them and I try to do that, but they can barely do their own jobs, let alone push somebody else's business as well. And I always said, hey, any of your clients can come in, or any of your people can come in here and we'll do a free session with them, right? I was like, you can send that out and everything. But they gave me access to their portal, like their resident portal. So I just leave messages on there. I say, 100%. So we've gotten a few people, I'm like, hey, we're downstairs. And their fitness facility closed for a little bit while they're revamping it, and it's still garbage, right? It's still not nice. I'm like, why don't you come downstairs and just come check it out. And what we started to do, especially because we want to maximize the ROI of this place, is that I started doing these, we do a hybrid program where it's like you train in person, but then we also do online training, right? So you get a little bit of both. But then you can buy a gym membership on top of that and use our open gym hours, which is if I'm not training here from 3 to 9 p.m.
That was my next question is, have you activated that with current clients who know the routine, they've been educated on 100%. It, they're not going to fuck the place up? Nice.
So we let them come in here. We have the camera so you can see anything that's going on. We're thinking about investing in like a software where you can connect to the door, hardware and software. Hardware you put on the door and then software where you have an app that opens up the door
for 24/7 access for those guys?
So then we can just come in here and use it, right? And the hard part about is like making sure that's like, hey, you can only use it during during these hours.
Yep.
But it's like, most people work out after work anyway, so it's like, hey, if you're coming in here, and obviously we're not in here, why should I pay for cooling down this space when nobody's using it?
Sure.
So I'm trying to get as much money as possible, even to the point of where people like to do photo shoots. So you can put your gym facility on a website. I forgot what the website you can use, but the people can rent out your facility for 2 hours for $300, $400 to use it. You're not using it anyway, so you might as well make some money out of it. You put some real big parameters on there. You put a lock on your door so that way they can't get into your office, and then you have the camera in here so you can see if anything goes wrong and stuff. But I think that's the way you maximize the space. Is like anytime that I'm not in here, and then even like when we have events or we have teaching moments or we have, Onward comes out and they
I was going to say, partnering with the local physical therapists that are teaching, like Onward and Ryan and those guys.
So they come out here and then we do a mobility course, and it's like, people haven't done mobility, and it's like, that shows us as trainers that we care about not just like pumping up muscles, that we're teaching you how to mobilize. And if we do that, then we're teaching you that we're kind of like a solution that can kind of fit in between a physical therapist and like a chiropractor. Like maybe your issue isn't so bad that we can help you fix it as a very educated personal trainer, and you don't have to go to the physical therapist. But if you can't, we're gonna send you to the physical therapist, and they send us people, right? And it really works out. And I think that the thing is with most people that open up their business, I think that they think it's them against everybody. I think that's the worst thing. They have the scarcity mindset of like, oh, I gotta make sure I get all these clients. And there's like 1.2 million people in Charlotte.
Plenty.
I literally need like 0.0001% to be very successful. So it's like, I just need a very small percentage, and it's like, so I might as well just connect with I connect with other personal trainers. I literally connect with trainers to the point where it's like, oh, we're too expensive? Here's this trainer over here. You should go train with him, right? And then they go train with him, and it's like, well, he doesn't have his own private space, and he doesn't, you know what I mean? And then it's like, well, maybe it is worth that extra $30 per hour to go and have my own private space, where I don't have to worry about parking, and I can actually learn how to, work out. So,
have you guys had success with physical marketing, like throwing like those little yard signs and shit in the tree lawn, up and around the residence and stuff like that?
So our lease really is against it. We probably could do it, and they wouldn't notice, right? We're right next to the leasing center though, so they notice it. They notice it a little faster. So we haven't experimented with that, but that's kind of like the next thing I want to go through is like have a table out here or something, and like we can answer any questions or
look into clean graffiti. Have you looked at? You know what clean graffiti is? Okay. So if I wanted to spray paint your logo right here or on that sidewalk or any public sidewalk, and all this is public, and I want to say Intertia Fitness, boom, 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 first appointment on it, whatever, and I spray painted that, well, the cops are going to come and you're going to get in a lot of trouble. But you know what's not illegal in any municipality in the United States is for you to get a stencil done with wood, put it over top of the sidewalk, take a pressure washer, it is not illegal to remove dirt off any sidewalk.
Yeah, that's smart.
So look up. It's actually in Charlotte. It's called The Savage Way. Her name is Tori Savage. She owns. It's a guerrilla marketing company. If you've seen people who have done it's like moss art. It's like art, like moss, designs. Her company started that, but they also started clean graffiti, where they go ahead and they'll do the stencil, and we'll go ahead all the neighborhoods and the streets around here with your logo, whatever promo, all that. You can do a QR code.
Can you do a QR code? That'd be smart. And
nobody can do anything because you literally just cleaned the sidewalk. That's all it is.
Genius. Yeah, that's really smart.
Little shit like that. It's like dope. Now, the fun thing so what would you do differently? So again, I think you'd have done a great job with this spot. Well, what would you do differently if you do it all over again? Like, what didn't you know then? If you go back and talk to Ash when he was building out or planning out the space, what would you do differently?
Be patient. That's probably the first thing, right? I think there's a lot of I wouldn't have tried to cut corners or try to be too lean. I wish I would have got more higher quality stuff almost from the start, right? Or I wish I would have, I used to have another cycle bike in here and stuff like that. And it just seemed like wasted square footage. Because you have the cycle bike, and then obviously you need room for that to be there. And I'm like, it'd be more valuable to have another barbell rack in here, right? So if I had to come back, maybe I would try to fit one more barbell rack in here, or you
start looking at so do you start thinking of that and be like, okay, I've been in here over a year. I've been in here a year now. That bike's, we're using it 0.001% of the time. Sell it, fuck it. I might put in a slim rig or some other squat thing in there. Even cable crossovers, like free motions and stuff. You look at the Anchor systems. Those are have you ever seen me set those pulleys up when I was there at QC Fit? Setting those up and just put another squat rack there and just put fucking Anchor stations on each one of these. And I got a fucking full pulley system, and that thing I could sell, make about a couple grand still on that probably, and then put in another one. You start figuring out the evolution of what equipment is making making the most money. If it's
and I
not
think that the
making
demand
money,
was there too. Like I think like once the demand reaches there, that's when you start to be like, hey, let's see if we can fit. Like right now, we are in here, all three of us in here, probably only like 10% of the time. You know, we all kind of stagger our schedules. Like I work hard on Monday, but then I take like Tuesday off, and then I come in Wednesday. So we kind of stagger our schedules so that way there's only 2 trainers in here usually at a time. That way we don't have to worry about the parking. That's the biggest issue still. It's still the parking. Sure. The parking's still the hardest thing, but the nice part about it is that those QR codes that are out there, those can be used at any time, right? So it's like if you're training certain people before 6 p.m., they can go park in those spots and don't have to worry about paying or anything like that. So I think that the logistics, like now matching up the logistics with how the logistics work in here, and then what is the equipment that we're using the most, and what equipment are we not using? What things do we not use? Like the next thing I'm buying is a Staiku. Okay. You know, Staiku, because I think that's going to take our evaluations to the next step, and then now people get scans in here, but that also is another way to generate revenue. People will come in and just do
Is that through the 3D?
That is a 3D scan, and it's within like 2% error of a DEXA, right? So if we have that, people will come in here and just use that. They'll be like, oh yeah, I'll pay $25 just to go get a Staiku scan, but then it gets them in here. That's what we need. Sometimes we just need people in here. They need people to meet us. We break down what's happening with the scan and be like, yo, well, if you want to build more muscle, lose more fat, that's what we do, right? So adding that will help with our evaluations. I think it will help with our closing. We already do pretty good on our closing, but I think we can even do better, obviously. So adding that in here. I think that can be put in the office, and that can be folded away and put in the corner when we don't need it, and we can use the office for whatever we need, right? So I think adding stuff like that is adding layers of, you know, like we want to have a retail section in here, right? Where we have like protein bars and stuff like that. I hate that stuff. I think that stuff gives you like pennies on the dollar.
Correct, yeah.
But now it's just another thing that's offering, like now when somebody walks in here and they're on the edge, it's like, well, it's nice that they have protein shakes in the fridge, and it's nice that they have the Staiku. That might push them over to train with us or stay longer with us, or just like add an element of like, that little bit of money that we're making on the side from it. I don't think it's gonna make, like, it's like, oh, I'm gonna put protein bars in here and that's gonna make me a 6-figure. Right? It's not gonna do that. Yeah. But it offers something to your clients, and it adds that lifetime value of a client, it increases it. Because you should be increasing your prices year after year after year, right? But that it will slowly increase that lifetime value of that client. But now if I can get them to buy a protein shake every single time that they're in here, and they do a DEXA scan every 2 months, now I'm adding a little bit of more money on each one of those clients. So rather than having to go get new clients all the time, which is the hard part, right? I can get more out of the clients that are currently here.
It's interesting. So in the group fitness setting, we generally look for, you want to set the bar that you want your average client to spend 10% of their monthly subscription with you additionally in retail. So if it's a $200 a month gym membership at a CrossFit, you want to do $20. So it's a couple fit aids, and it might be a month without buying anything. But then you drop a hoodie and a raglan tee and some joggers, and they spent fucking like $90 with you. So it like averages out over the year. The thing with the retail that people won't get, because they get the same thing, it's just like, okay, the bar costs me $1.50, I sell it for $3 or $3.50, whatever, there's margin. It's about creating the routine. It's kind of like what Amazon's done. Like you just think of something you need and it's like prime it. Like, and when people, if you can make it so that there's no actual need for the transaction, like again, someone in here is like, oh yeah, John, I'll add it to your account. Because it's all personal training. It's not like they don't know who was just here. But like, oh yeah, grab one, I'll go whatever. Because otherwise, if I leave here and I'm hungry and want a shake or something before my next thing, now where am I gonna go? I gotta drive, there's no gas stations around here. There's nothing convenient. And you can mark the price up higher because people be like, oh, well, I could buy a bunch of that at Costco for cheaper. You won't.
No, they won't.
And you won't remember to bring it in.
People want convenience. That's why they're doing personal training.
Grab it and go. And just like those Amazon Go stores. And you will see those, like, to change just that small dollar amount. They went from spending maybe $500 a month of personal training, and they're up to like $560 a month in just retail-based products that you maybe have a 40 to 60% margin on.
And you do that with 70 clients over the course of a month. It starts to really add up. And we partner with a local supplement company here in Charlotte, and they give us awesome like wholesaling prices. But then we're supporting a local company. And other people want to support local companies too. Like, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, but like if that's a difference maker between the same price, the same product, but it's local or not, and it's still the same quality, sure, I will support the local one, right? So we've done little things like that, and that's the big thing, is like getting the retail spot up. I think there's a lot of little ways that you can, like I said, fill the water into the glass and fill in all the cracks of like trying to like maximizing the ROI of here. And I think that this even did a good job of like okay, now that we did it this way and I have like the blueprint, this will start to be able to be a place that can be franchised. Because I think that's the hard part about franchising. You got to have the blueprint, you got to have the manuals, you got to have all this stuff. You got to be able to.
You got to have a proof of concept. Like if you're going to go do FDD docs,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to spend $100,000 getting those done, and you're going to have to essentially sell someone this blueprint is likely to yield you this result.
Right, exactly.
And everyone's seen what happened. Like F45 lied on their S1 documentation, which is what has to be published when you do IPO, when you go public. So all that documentation was fraudulent. The AUV they reported, average unit volume of each of those franchises, they reported it way higher than what it actually was. And now they're going to be in a lot. I mean, they're not allowed to trade anymore. It's no longer listed on the on NYSE. It's really it's a huge deal. But like on that franchise thing, you're like, yeah, I need to show. And it can't be hypothetical. It has to be this exact layout produced this exact result. And your one look like this, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, and boom. And that's why most people, when they do the franchise, I'll do this location. This is my pilot, and then I'm going to learn like. Are rectangles better than squares for this model? If I could do this ever, would I want an extra 20 feet that way? Or what? I'm gonna go find that next one, let that be my showroom. Or I did it 100% right, this will be the showroom, whatever it may be. But there are franchises right now that are you can sell a franchise with one corporately owned location and just start pitching the idea and sell it as long as you can get someone to sign, write up your FDD docs for you and get it all, and you'll get your franchise license in different states, you're good to go.
And I think that's the thing. It's like I think once you build like that first location, so if you're somebody that's like open up that first location, you're kind of stuck with a decision like, do I open up more locations or do I start franchising it there?
Use OPM, other people's money to
do it. So it's like what decision do I want to do? And it's like, are you somebody that wants a little bit more control over the brand? You think the culture is going to fall out while franchising it? Then maybe open up a few more locations. And that's maybe where I would feel like, is like, maybe I let somebody run this location, I go up location B. Right? So somebody that I already trust, that's already training here, that's already like wanting that position, now they become the owner of this one, and I go like take location B and I start that one up, and you hop over to location C and start that one up. And then once we have 3, now we have a really good proof of concept, and we have an average out of those 3, and we've seen, does the square work better than the rectangle? Because you don't know if the rectangle works better than the square if you've never tried the square. So it's like maybe you try that, and then maybe we open up a bigger location, and it's like that failed. Maybe that model does not work with a bigger location. Maybe we should keep it lean and mean, right? So I think there's multiple different ways to do it, and that's the fun part about business. I feel like if you're not trying to have fun, if you don't really enjoy business and you're not having fun with doing these things, you're just not going to want to go through the hard parts of it.
That growth model, another interesting one is also like keeping it all corporately owned. So let's say your top trainer here after a while comes to you and goes, man, I love it. I want to now own something, right? So I'm either going to leave you and go open my own thing, or like, can I open up one of these? But cool. I'm going to keep a 20% corporate ownership in your location, but I'm going to give you the rights, the branding, the manuals, the systems, this, that. I will help you. I will consult, to find the location, lay it out exactly like I did, and that's your spot. I take 20% of the gross profit, quarterly or whatever the fuck the number is you guys come up with, and now you've kept that guy in the Intertia system. It's his name on the lease, his personal guarantee, all that shit. And then just as you grow these trainers up, you're giving them just the playbook, because it's like everyone has a dream. Like you said, you walked into this space when it was shell, and you're like, you instantly thought of it. So everyone who's a trainer, it dreams what their brand would be called, what it would look like, and all that. But if you can get them bought in, and this is just what they've known, loved, they've gotten the tattoo of, whatever the fuck it is, it makes it just way easier to expand your brand out, and you have all these corporately owned shops that you just have to keep a nice little percentage on, but all the risk is on them. You're just taking in a profit margin or some kind of, or again, a royalty fee, whatever the fuck you want to rewrite on that. If you can think it and it's legal, it can go down on a piece of paper and be signed. Like everyone's going the franchise route, and I tell people like, it is so sticky and it is so expensive to get off the ground.
Totally.
It is, I mean, like there are so many factors that go into it. You'd be better off doing that corporate play, or honestly, a license play. A license.
I think that's what Onward does, right? So that's basically like, if the Onward guys are listening, like I just try to copy them. I'm like, they have like 15 locations in 3 years, and
they're doing great.
They're doing something good, and they know how to expand, and like our markets are very similar. They're just doing physical therapy. We're doing personal training. They're keeping small, small areas, and they're just doing a high quality product for one-on-one, which is new in the physical therapy space. And it's kind of becoming It was a thing that was back in the day. I think personal training was a lot bigger. I think the group classes have just completely taken over, especially in Charlotte, right? There's a lot of people that just don't want to do group classes.
Sure.
Or can't do group classes because like they hurt themselves.
Or they've became autonomous, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, like, even if I didn't have, my profession wasn't in exercise phys and coaching and all that, you do CrossFit for 8 years, you kind of know how to squat and press overhead and all that, assuming you had some halfway C+ coaching. And you look at that workout of the day, you're like, I don't want to do 150 wall balls.
Right.
I want to do 5x3 back squats.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm good. Can I do open gym? Can I do my own thing?
You can personalize your own thing.
And then if the gym's not, like, I've got the luxury of QC Fit being able to do that. But if you don't have that, then you're like, maybe I'll just get a $10 a month plan or some global gym membership. I'm going to go follow Marcus Philly's programming or this person's programming or whatever. Group fitness just educates and educates and educates and educates and educates, and eventually someone goes, you know, I think I'm going to sign up for the 10K or the marathon, or I'm going to start doing Nick Bare's hybrid athlete or whatever. And they want it, they're going to cancel. The number one reason of cancellation I have for CrossFit gyms that have been doing it like 7 years or more, people canceling are just, they want to do something else fitness-wise.
Which is fine.
You've educated them so much, they don't need your recipe.
That's a good job. That's a pat on your back.
100%.
I've always tell people, I'm like, the end story is like I fired myself. Because I did such a good job that you don't need me anymore. That means I did a great job. And that's why we have the online. That's why we do hybrid. So that way it's like you get used to the online. And it's like now you get used to your coach giving you programs no matter what. Do you want to go run? Cool. We have a hybrid program where you can do a Nick Bare style workout, but now it's with the trainer that actually knows your thing. Nick Bare doesn't know that you have scoliosis and you have this this little spinal curvature at the bottom of your squats. I do though. So I'm going to be able to make you a program that's like that. And I think you get to hold on to those people a little bit more, and the lifetime value of that client. Still, you get a lot more out of that person, right? Now it's like the average client that I have has been training with me for over 3 years. Okay. They followed me to 4 different gyms. They've come here. They want to see it through. They've made it to the Mecca. They made it to the Holy Land, right? And they can't wait for location number 2 to wait. They're already saying that. I'm like, I don't know what location. It's probably going to take me 2 years to get into the second location done, if I do that, right? But I'm like, they're already ready for the next location. They're already ready for the next thing. They're just going to follow along because that's what they're comfortable with and that's what they know. And they know that we can change things because that's what fitness is. Like, I just became a runner recently. I love running now, and it's cool. It's great. And it's like, I like the running, and I'm like, but sometimes I like coming here and doing Olympic stuff. Sometimes I do just like to get some bicep curls. And like, I think that's what keeps fitness fun and fresh. And I think that's what you have to do with your business as well. I think if you want to narrow down and be like really niche at something, but at the same time have some pliability and flexibility. And I think that's how you keep your clients, but also like you make sure that they're having fun with it too. So you were doing about 10K on your own, you know, training people, having them follow these different gyms, and then when you came in, you now have these other trainers. They probably had some of their own followings and all that. A little bit, and they're all buying the memberships and the personal training through Intertia, and then Intertia gives them their cut. Correct? So it's an interesting model. So when you think about like, okay, Ash could go ahead and you could pay for marketing and have client acquisition costs and bring clients in, or you could bring in these other trainers. Has each of these trainers, have they been, like when you look at that, is everyone responsible for a certain amount of growth or like lead gen or anything per month? Or is it just like, if you're not hitting this number or bringing this many clients or clients only staying for this period of time or whatever it is, what is it, like how do you look at growth here? Is it just Intertia pitching to come on in, or is it these trainers growing their social medias, posting, all that stuff? Yeah, so it's Intertia growing their businesses, it really is. And that's why I kind of have the leverage to like, what better opportunity as a trainer? You get to sit here and make 60%, which is higher than almost any gym that you're gonna know, right? You get to make 60% at a high rate, you know, our minimum rate is $100 a session, right? With a hybrid program that's already set up, so we already have the app set up, we already have the customization set up, we bring your clients to you, we supply you the facility, we pay for the community events, pay for the marketing. You're not even going to make that much money doing your own thing. You're going to pay 40% of expenses by yourself if you go start your own thing. So it kind of leverages it for me a little bit, to have these trainers in here. They're like, hey, I get to depend on him, but then I get to also depend on them to make monthly income as well. And I'm like, that's a cherry on top if you go and build your own personal brand. I do bring in a videographer like once a month, and we shoot content. And they get to shoot content, whatever things that they want. We do a
publish
collab
on their channels as well.
We do a collab post, so they get a piece of content. We get content for us. us, and then that expands the web even farther. That gets that coach to be, exposed in front of our audience, but then also we get to be exposed in front of theirs. So I think it makes these things really sticky, right? And you're leaving like this footprint everywhere. And that's the whole thing. It's like you want to leave this footprint everywhere to when people think personal training, inertia, right? And that's what we want to be known as, right? So I think that's the big thing, is like we wanted to make sure that the personal trainers felt like they just got to do what they're good at, personal training. But if they want to learn about business, if they want to learn about marketing, they can do that, and that's just going to help them be able to open up their own location eventually.
Yeah.
But if not, that's great. Just personal training. That's fine. You're probably going to make good money just being the personal trainer. But if you want to take that next step, you have the opportunity to take that next step. Where it's like I felt like at Lifetime, I was never going to be able to open up a Lifetime.
Sure.
Yeah. I was maybe going to be a manager 20 years into the game. And like I knew people that were trainers for Lifetime for like 20 years. Yeah. And I'm like, you never wanted to explore, and it's like they get comfortable with these golden handcuffs, and they're like, yeah, $80,000 is fine. And I'm like, $80,000, you know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. I'm like, I want to make more than that. And like, you're working 40 hours a week, 40 hours a week training, which is hard.
And there's a certain point where even you're a 60-year-old personal trainer, your stock value diminishes over
so
time.
fast.
Yes.
Like, you're only hot for so long.
Correct. Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is kind of how it is. That's why I've said, I'm like, I got to future-proof myself, because I'm only going to be like fit. And I'll probably be like good shape, like even in my 40s and 50s.
You start having kids.
It's gonna be weird, like training like 20-year-olds at that point, right? And they're not gonna listen to me as much.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, this old man, like he doesn't know what's going on, the trends that's going on right now, right? So I'm like, I gotta make sure that I future-proof myself and make sure that I'm not just a one-trick pony. I'm not just the personal trainer. I'm actually the business owner. Now I train trainers, and it's like that was the whole point. I'm like, let's make a facility that I can train trainers. The trainers can train the people. That makes the web a lot larger. I can only help 20 people. I can only take 20 clients until I'm burnt out. So it's like, what if I help 20 trainers? Take 20 clients.
Sure.
Right? And then those trainers be able to take those, you know what I mean? And you create this web, right? And yeah, we just wanted to make it really sticky. We want to make this footprint to the point where it's like, it just kind of spreads out. And then obviously if they go open up their own branch, that makes this branch even stronger too. Because now there's 2 inertias. That means it's probably reputable if they have 2 locations of it, right? So I think that was the big thing, is like making sure that the trainers like felt like they had clients coming in. And then if they want to go and market themselves, that's just going to help them. They're going to make money out of it, right? It's not like, I don't want to bring clients in here. Because I told them, like, you can go train your client at your apartment gym, right? And that's fine, and that's completely fine. But I think the way that they're bought in here, they want to bring any client that they're getting a lead into this place, because I think that they felt welcomed here, and I'm giving them. It's kind of like when you go to a dealership and they give you some water or something like that, and it's like, what is that called? It's like a reciprocating, it's a gift kind of thing.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
it's like I scratch your back, you're gonna scratch mine.
It's like engagement, like wedding ring shops. You go in there, and like the really nice ones, the chicks looking at everything, and they'll have an open bar for the dude to just sit there and make a cocktail or whatever. And you're just like,
he's having a good time.
I'm like, I get why you're doing this, but I'm going to take you up on it.
You get to test drive the rings and all that stuff. And it's like, I think that's the thing. It's like, I'm giving you clients, and I'm giving you 10 of your clients. And then you're going to hoard that one by yourself. You could. And maybe you make a tiny bit, a little bit more money, but why wouldn't you want to bring them into a more professional environment and a place that you're already putting all your eggs in, right?
People do month-to-month contracts. What does it look like?
It's a 4-week rolling, EFT. So it gets taken out. They can change their plan, what for that where they need. So we try to push people towards like a higher package, obviously when they first start, because there's a learning curve.
Sure.
But then once you get past that learning curve, you can go down from a 3-time-a-week training, in person, to a 2-time-a-week hybrid, to a 1-time-a-week hybrid, to online.
If trainers start having retention issues, like, dude, I've given you 10 clients and only 2 of them are with you 5 months later. We got a fucking problem, right? I've called all of them and they said you were late or this or that or whatever. Is that, and again, because they're 1099, just boom, this just isn't working out.
It's just easy to cut it. You don't have to worry about any kind of like termination, like stuff that you're gonna have to pay them or pensions or anything like that. Like you don't have to worry about that. It makes it kind of like a clean break. But that also puts the pressure on them to be good.
Sure.
Because they know that I just be like, hey, I just don't want you anymore. And I can kick you out and you can't really do anything about it. You're a contractor, right? And I hope they don't feel that way, that I would do that, but at the same time, like it puts the pressure on them to.
If you only are going to run, if your ideal is running 4 people at max in here, then there's 0 room and margin for you to not perform,
to not be good.
And also too, like if these people, the eventual thing is to turn them into their own business owner, whether it's inertia or whatever, they have to be able to hunt.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
If you just feed them, then they're only learning to eat. Anybody can fucking eat. But they got to be able to hunt. and they got to be able, then that way they eat what they kill.
Exactly, yeah.
And create, whether it's incentives like I've done in the past, like, okay, if you bring the client, so it's the 60-40. But if you bring them in and I never had to touch them, I never had to do, like, for as far as I know, they literally just came off the street, here's 70-30 or whatever.
That's what we do, 70-30, yeah. So if they bring their own client in, they get 70-30 for the month, right? So, and it's like you get a little bonus on top of it, right? And they don't know this, so maybe they'll listen to this, but like I'm gonna take a percentage of all their sales and they're gonna get a bonus at the end of the year, right? And it's like, that's gonna push you like, oh, if I really push myself, because why wouldn't you be able to get a bonus based off of the percentage of, I don't wanna just give random bonus, like everybody gets $500. This isn't even. You worked harder and you made more money for me. You get a higher bonus, right? So I think that there's a lot of different ways that you can like incentivize your trainers to get them to work hard and like to try to bring in their own clients. And yeah, I mean, the 2 people I have right now, like they're completely bought in and they bend over backwards to make the business. Like they really take it on like this is their place, which is great because I want the ownership because they might be their place. I would tell them that, I'm like, this might be your place one day.
Sure.
So like act like it is. And they really take it on like that.
Owners is like, man, I have a hard time incentivizing what I'm like. There's only 2 things you have to do with an employee. You have to compensate them well, and then you have to fucking fulfill them. But it's fitness. They're already fulfilled. They're wearing Lulu and they're doing what they love. The fulfillment's through the fucking roof.
It is.
You just got to, if you come up with a way to put golden handcuffs on them and pay them well. I got buddies who fucking sell cranes, like giant fucking cranes. They don't even like cranes. But they fucking make $2 million a year. They're like, they travel all over, have to talk to fucking the worst people in the world about cranes. You're like, I hate this job. My fulfillment is so low. And it's all good though. But my house is dope and I like my new car, right?
Exactly.
Last thing I want to hate because you started running. Since I got into the running community here in Charlotte, I realized I'm like, I fucked up so bad. In all the years I had fitness companies here in Charlotte, I did not go after the running community enough. Like how many of them that are out there, and there's enough like push now in pop culture for runners to fucking do some kind of strength training. Some of them are still resistant. Like when you were probably out that 10K, you probably looked around like, this is the average fucking runner. They look kind of anemic, some skinnier ones. That whole hybrid fitness Nick Baer thing, I think is getting out there.
It's starting to.
Fucking Mark Bell's running, fucking all these guys. Like it's it's coming back into vogue.
Yeah, it is.
But it's like, that's the fucking, if I had to just narrow in on a segment, they're already into fitness. And when a runner can't run because of injury, if you can sell them, like, it's because you're not strong enough.
Right.
You go for a fucking whatever mile run, you might do 21,000 steps.
Yes.
Like on a run, like it's like 21,000 reps of that, and your body just said no.
And if you don't have muscle to kind of like to brace that impact, then it's all in your joints.
100%.
I think the running community I think the hybrid community is huge, and I've just moved all my clients into a hybrid program. So this is like, I get paid to test pilot these things. So I'm test piloting with all my clients and like they're loving it so far, the running, weightlifting hybrid. And especially if you know mobility and how to do this and because recovery is a big thing. When it comes to hybrid, when it comes to running and weightlifting, you got to recover really well because your leg's gonna be fried and now you got to go deadlift, So I think that's a huge market. And the thing with runners, this is gonna sound very offensive to runners maybe, but I think with runners is that they're kind of like the artist, like the starving artist to me. I think they're so passionate about running. This is a lot of trainers though too, but they're so passionate about running that they're terrible business people. Like let's just go all run together for free, like outside and do this. And they don't have no business structure. Every runner that I know that has been trying to start a business just fall flat on their face. And I'm like, I might kind of swoop in and take this running market too, because I think there's a huge opportunity. Me being 205 pounds at 5'10", there's no reason for me to be in this top 7 percentile of the people that race on Sunday, right? But I weigh 40 pounds heavier than people, and I'm smoking them.
I get it, bro.
Smoking them, especially on the hills. It's like, and I have the muscle to be able to get up those hills. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think there's really something here. I think the hybrid thing is going to be huge.
The beauty is then if running becomes kind of one of the cores, you're able to be like, hey, we're going to sign up for the Around the Crown 10K that's in 4 or 5 months. And now you've created a retention because there's a point on there. The thing, group fitness, most studio owners don't want their clients to get too into running because most studios then see the cancellation. Well, I'm going to start focusing on running. And they can't sell the client on, well, no, stay here. It'll be great for running. The client's like, well, no, I need to be running. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm kind of strong now. I need to be running. But if you, like a training suit, because you're fitness methodology agnostic. If someone wants to power lift, you can do that. If they want to train for running, they can do that. You guys get to mold and ebb and flow to whatever the fuck the customer wants. It's like, what do we do here at Intertia? We literally train you the way you want to be training, get you the results that you probably couldn't get on your own. Like that's essentially what we do here. And that mold, the pliability is going to be, it's what a lot of the studios, that's their, if I would say their biggest competition, I would say it's one of the things is an agnostic studio like this where they're not having to commit to any one fitness methodology.
Yeah.
We're able to be whatever that client wants, and when they're ready to jump out of group fitness class, which I think people age out of at a certain point, and get serious about a certain thing, and like I sign up for the marathon, like I hired Lisa Landrum, she's a local running coach, so I hired her, did some consulting with Chris Henshaw, traveled out to Nashville. I'll be like, I'm all in on these running coaches.
Yeah, same.
Because I've got this one specific thing I'm trying to achieve.
Yes.
I would never go to a group fitness class to achieve that.
To like complement that. And that's the thing, it's like even here, it's like, I'm like, oh, so you're just gonna go run and be better at running?
Sure.
It's not how it works.
No.
Just like you're gonna go grab this barbell and get stronger?
Correct.
I'm like, you need coaching. So now instead of your hybrid being focused on aesthetics, which you've been focused on so many times, which running will probably help with your aesthetic, now we get to have weight training that complements running.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't mean you cut out weight training. Even if you're all in at running, you probably need at least weight training 1 day a week, you know, just to maintain a lot of things and all that stuff. So, and we just had a client, it's funny how you talked about that pliability. We have a client that's trying to become a professional referee.
Okay.
So she wants to be at Charlotte FC and be the referee on the fields, right? So she
better
actually,
get that cardio up, honey.
Yeah, well, she needs to pass a combine.
Okay.
So she needs to run a 40 time under a certain time, right? It's super fun to be able to like, and that's what makes it fun as a trainer, is that you get the people that are like, I want a bigger butt. And you have the people like, I need to run a certain the combine for referee. I'm like, that's a first.
Yeah.
That's fun.
That's very
it's like when you have that range, then you're going to be able to fit in any client. It's good to have a niche. It's really good to have a niche. And like Christian's a little bit more with the athlete. So guess what? He goes to her, right? I'm a little bit more with Gen Pop, and I'm really good with weight loss and stuff like that. And then Lexi's really good with athletes and postpartum women. I'm like, that kind of covers like
the gamut. Yeah.
70% of people, 80% of the people, right? So I think having a little bit of niche, but having the range to be able to take on different clients as well, especially when you're first starting off, like you just take anybody and everybody. Yeah. You know, and it's like you don't get to be picky then.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, but then once you start to make it, you get to be a little bit more picky, and you get to train people the way they want to. And I think everybody's going to start moving towards that hybrid model and realizing that it doesn't have to be black and white. Like I was saying, everything's kind of in the gray, black and white, weightlifting or running. But they can't live together. And sure. Like, well, no. If you merge these two things together, you're probably gonna have your best physique. You're gonna be in the best shape of your life. You're gonna have your cardiovascular fitness is gonna be good. Your VO2 max is great. Muscle mass is probably gonna be great. You're probably actually gonna feel a lot better than just doing one or the other.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
I think there's a huge market there.
Ashman, this has been dope. For anyone that was listening, that if they just want to reach out to you, maybe they're looking to start a facility or they're curious about Intertia, anything like that. What's the best way for someone to get?
Honestly, reach out to me at Intertia. So you can go to IntertiaFitnessCo.com or info@IntertiaFitnessCo. Reach out to me then. You can follow me on Instagram, Ashton Baalaer. Shoot me over a message. I love answering questions. Stop by the gym. I would love to answer any kind of questions. I'm all about people winning. So whether you open up an Intertia, right, or you open up your own place, like you getting out there and talking about personal training and higher quality personal training helps us all out. It's the people that are charging $20 per session for personal training that actually hurts fitness facilities like this. So we need more people that kind of look like us. So it seems like it's an actual real thing.
That's awesome. Dude, thank you so much for taking the time today, dude.
Yeah,
I appreciate you.
It was good.
I appreciate you. Alrighty. That was dope. Fuck yeah. So
that was awesome.
My guys will get this. They'll cut up.